me tell you what I've been pondering lately. You might have guessed already from the title of this video, either that or you've been grossly misled. Yes, I've been pondering the Cyrix range of microprocessors, which, depending on your angle, could be interesting or might not be. So, let's start back where it began in the 90s. You see, it goes back to the mid-late 90s. I had become a PC owner over Christmas 1995, much to the misfortune of my parents' finances. My Atari ST and Amiga were slung aside in favour of an Advent 4250 personal computer, fresh from PC World. At the time it boasted an AMD 486DX2 microprocessor, running at a mind-blowing 50 MHz. And I'm not being sarcastic when I say that, 50 MHz was pretty snappy in 95. The machine sported Windows 3.11 for workgroups, a 3.5-inch floppy drive, and a rather splendid, although headache-inducing, Energy Star compliant 14-inch CRT screen. And it was the 60Hz refresh rate that was the headache-inducing part. So, this was all fine and dandy for a while, but no sooner had a few months passed and it was my birthday. I wanted more. More power, more capabilities, more things, everything. And so it began, the never-ending desire to upgrade my fine machine whenever I had a spare bit of cash or present-related events loomed. The problem with upgrades back then primarily was the cost, if you put compatibility issues aside. Memory was expensive, CD-ROM drives were expensive, graphics cards were expensive, everything was expensive. So when it came to upgrading the core processing unit of my machine at Christmas 96, there were limitations as what I could ask Father Christmas for. To be fair, I knew he didn't exist at this point, I was 13. I wanted more raw processing power, but Santa couldn't afford to get me one of those newfangled Pentium things, so research was done, by me, thoroughly. PC magazine after PC magazine were read carefully, processor benchmark tests were inspected diligently, and the solution was exposed, to me at least. A Cyrix 5x86 processor. It could be installed in my current motherboard, it was as fast as a Pentium, and it was cheap, darn cheap, plus it was coloured gold. Take a look at this thing of beauty. So there it was installed and all was good. Well, almost. The Cyrix processors relied on a PR system for gauging their speed, although the term PR wasn't established properly until the 6x86 chips released some 5 months later. The model I had was clocked as a P100. This meant that Cyrix considered it to be equivalent to a Pentium 100 MHz processor. The thing is, these processors didn't actually run at 100 MHz like a true Pentium. Instead, their architecture was improved over that of a Pentium, and so a lower rated Cyrix chip could perform at the same level as a much faster Intel chip. What's more, the Cyrix processor lacked many of the instruction sets found within the Pentium architecture. It wasn't a 486 for sure, it had many Pentium design elements. However, the fact it was missing some meant it wasn't a Pentium either, and so that didn't work well with a lot of software and games. In fact, games designed specifically for the Pentium architecture wouldn't run properly on a Cyrix. So, the processor wasn't as fast as I'd hoped it would be. Sure, it was faster than a 486, definitely a massive improvement, but it wasn't as I expected, and so I was a little bit disappointed. But like a man with a lower specification car than his friends, I rooted for that chip like it was my own goddamn child. And indeed, I still do. I took massive pleasure out of pushing every inch of power out of that machine as possible. Of course, a faster processor was useless with my Trident piece of scrap video card, and so that was also swapped out for a Diamond Edge 3D. Such was my desire to upgrade my machine back in the 90s, that, as you may be able to tell, I still find researching these things, reading benchmarks on massively outdated hardware, and playing around with this stuff quite exciting. It's like a strange childhood competitiveness is stirred, and I still get the urge to upgrade a 90s machine to its peak specifications circa 1996, regardless of the fact that I'm typing this article on a laptop which is 100 times or so more powerful. It's just not the same. After the 5x86, I stayed loyal to the brand and went down the route of the 6x86 and MMX processors. Although I think ultimately I ended up with an AMD K6. My Advent 4250 was thrown away, much to my shock horror, so the proof is sadly gone. Both the AMD and the Cyrix processors had their distinct advantages and disadvantages over the Intel hardware. Has anyone tried Quake on a 6x86? No? I'd advise that you don't. But that's a story for another day. So here we are. This is why I've been pondering the Cyrix chip recently. It's why I'm looking at buying one on eBay for a reasonable sum of £30. I imagine it's probably worth that for the gold value alone. So if you feel the same, or even if you don't, drop a comment below and we can have a good old guffaw talking about old processors from the 90s. Woohoo! Thank you for watching this video delving into my strange memories of a Cyrix 5x86 processor. Please stay tuned for more videos, more oddity, and please subscribe if you fancy it. Thanks for watching. Good night.